Hi, everyone. Welcome to the age of using a computer and doing a Zoom interview. I appreciate your patience. I think today's a very exciting day for us at the Thorns because we get to announce the great Mike Norris as our new head coach. Woo! As everybody who knows me, Mike, his history speaks for himself in being able to lead success. Obviously, coming off Olympic gold medal and our reigning champions last year. He led a lot of things on the field. He was in charge of our online, our scouting for other teams. Did a lot of game day prep. The players love him. They bought into him. I think even today we saw some tweets for some of the players, which is a testament that we have their buy-in. Obviously, as a club, he has our absolute buy-in. His character is phenomenal. I'm sure all of you will get to see that. Some of you may need translations when Mike starts speaking with his Newcastle accent, which we always tease him about. He loves food. He's a foodie. If you want to get an in with Mike, bring some food into the press conferences because that's it. But most importantly, he's well qualified for this job. It is an absolute honor and excitement to introduce Mike Norris to all of you. And Mike, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Karina. I think I'd just like to open just to say, obviously, a huge honour. Very grateful to be named the head coach of the Portland Thorns. Obviously, a club with great history of success, terrific fan base, which I got to experience last year. So just really proud and excited for the challenge ahead and to get started. So, yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll roll right into questions. We'll start off with Paul Danzer.
Hey, Karina, maybe you can talk a little bit about the process. How many people did you interview, and what was the process you went through to settle on Mike?
Karina, you're muted.
Yes, we went through a really good process. Obviously, I spoke to some agents who have a lot of head coaches in the business, and we went through the process of looking at who had applied previously. Spoke with several people, but I think the big thing that stood out for us is thinking of player safety, getting that continuity from winning the championship last year. Mike was loved by the players, loved by the club. I think it was the perfect transition to have Mike come in and lead. And obviously, we had a hard conversation just before this and said, Mike, is this what you want? And I think it's a testament to his character to say, he asked if I had the players buy-in, do I have the staff buy-in and everything? And everybody was on board. And I think over the year, you'll see why Mike is more than credible for this, why he's the perfect person to lead us. But we went through different processes, but in the end, it was a no-brainer for us. And you guys will see that.
All right, we'll go to Joe Becker next.
Yeah, Mike, first off, how much do you enjoy Portland? And how much do you enjoy coaching, especially coaching the players here?
Thanks, Joe. Portland, so I think, obviously, you might know I've spent the last sort of 15, 16 years in Vancouver, Canada. So I think Pacific Northwest, from a climate perspective, really suits me for what I like. Yeah, I think the greenery that is offered around here in Portland as a city is fantastic. So I've enjoyed the year that I've had so far. In terms of how much I enjoy coaching, I think if you ever see us on the field, that's where I'm at my happiest and most comfortable, is on the field and impacting the players, trying to grow them, trying to challenge them, and doing the same with myself. But yeah, that's really what puts a smile on my face and drives me every day. And that's what I really want, the most important, enjoyable part of the job, which I'm looking forward to continue to do.
All right, we'll go to Ryan Clark next.
Mike and Karina, question for both of you, and Mike, maybe you can answer this first. What does it mean to you to have the buy-in from the players and have so many players publicly announcing their support of this move?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I think it's huge. I mean, Karina touched on it. I think through this process, that was one of the big things I said to Karina and the club was, look, if this is not what the players want, I can put my sort of desires to the side and move on if that's not what's needed. So it means a lot. I think it's it speaks to the connection I think I built last year and the trust in terms of how I work with the players. Obviously, some it came a bit quicker, some it takes a bit more time, but yeah, I mean, it means a lot. Obviously, I think we all have a little bit of imposter syndrome at times, and to get that public support, it means a lot. But I think internally, getting those messages of support has been huge.
Karina, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'd just say that, I mean, when we kind of spoke to some of the players about it, one response from a player was, he's not only made me a better player, but he's made me a better person. And I think it's important to highlight the character of what Mike brings. I mean, obviously, I've said he led scouting. There's a lot of history he's now attained with the league and being a coach, but it's so important we also highlight the character and the human being that he is. And that quote right there probably is an anecdote for the players. And I haven't been as much on Twitter today, but I heard that some of the players actually said basically that he's an amazing coach, but also an amazing person.
All right, we'll go to Steph Young next.
Thanks, Katie. Obviously you guys just had this big trade with Yasmin Ryan without tipping your hand. I'm wondering, it's a question for both of you, if you could give us any information on, what your goals are coming out of this draft. And also, just because I'm feeling a little spicy today, Karina mentioned you're a huge foodie. Mike, what's the most overrated food experience in Portland?
Mike, I'll let you go with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the draft, I think it's about adding to the roster. We've obviously got incredible talent. We've got great depth, which I think is a blessing, but I think also a bit of freshness and just bringing the right people in with the skill sets and character just to add to this group, to challenge and push is really what we're after, I would say. And then in terms of food, I think Karina's given us a lot of credit. I don't want to classify myself as a food connoisseur because I'm not that. I just have an appetite that creeps up on me too frequently. So I eat a lot. I eat often. I'm not necessarily a food expert, but yeah. I mean, I've had a couple of nice meals here. Yala, I think Yala is a Mediterranean place I've been to, which is, yeah, I've been there a couple of times, and that's, yeah, I've liked that one.
All right, we'll go to Morgan Acuff from K2.
Yeah, I just wanted to know about the sort of dichotomy that you're going to face with continuity and change. It's, I think that it's kind of a delicate balance because, of course, you just won the National Women's Soccer League, but at the same time, there are a lot of changes that need to take place. How do you plan to conquer that, or how do you plan to embrace that change?
Is that for me or Mike or both of us?
For Mike.
Okay.
Well, for both of you, actually, yeah. If you want to comment on it as well.
So Morgan, I think the element of continuity, I think, is important. I think the players have expressed that. I think what needs to change, I think, so I am familiar to the players, but also I think this year will be a different role. I think they'll maybe get a little bit more of my flavor in terms of some of the continuity and the connection that I've built. But yeah, I mean, I'm highly passionate about sort of tactics, strategy, breaking the game down as a team, also just individually from a positional standpoint. So I think that will come out more. Yeah, but I think the connections which I've built, which I've invested in this year, because it's one thing that been my skill set and where I feel I'm at my strength. But if I can't get my message across and I don't have the connection with the players, that stuff doesn't really mean a lot. So I think continue to build these connections further and deepening that to keep pushing and challenging the players who ultimately they've been through a lot. So I think that's where the continuity and calmness can help the players, but hopefully with a little bit of, yeah, different twist, if you like.
All right. Go ahead, Karina.
I'll just add, like, if you watched a lot of our games last year, Mike was on the touchline. So that moment, and you talk about the continuity of players hearing the coach's voice and everything like that, that's going to continue. And I think to highlight again why we went with Mike was he does have the trust of the players. He does have the trust of the club. And I think that's an important part where you talk about continuing with our success. And yeah, I thought that was important to add.
All right, we'll go to Patty.
Hello, thanks, Katie. This is really for both of you, but KK, you can answer it first. I'm just wondering what attributes Mike brings to the role that he might have picked up specifically with his work and experience within the Canada Women's National Team program that he still carries today.
First one, phenomenal coach. I think Mike knows the game. Obviously, he knew it at the international level, and you see a bit of like, is a coach going to be successful at the club level if they're international? But I think some of the processes that we've taken and he's taken, and now just even in our, draft prep and preparing for the season, he's confident in his ways. He knows his abilities. He knows how the team wants to play. He also knows the players. And I think that's one of a huge advantage for us, not only our players, but the players around the league. And I think one of the things we were thinking is going into this role, there's obviously a lot of international coaches. There's a lot of great coaches, but there's not many coaches who know the players within the league and know how to break down, the defenses of the other teams and the traps of the other teams. So what he's going to bring is his experience with the international game, how we've applied it into the club level, and then help take us as a club to the next level. He, on the field, tactical genius. And sorry, Mike, Mike doesn't like when I just tell him how great he is, but I think if you sit down and you actually talk through a game, you watch a game, he can analyze it, he can pick up things so quickly. That's some of the stuff that Mike brings. And then again, just that connection to the players. As we said before, players love him. And I think that's a huge part for the club moving forward, to make sure that the players bought into this as much as we wanted them to, but also the club.
All right, we'll go to Bella next.
Hey guys, thank you for the time. Karina's question is for you. Obviously, the Thorns are currently up for sale, and the NWSL today announced that one of the stipulations is that that sale must go through. So I'm wondering how specifically that affected the hiring process for you guys.
I was open and transparent in the process with Mike. I think that's one of the things that makes this unique, for us to make sure that Mike saw that we believed him no matter what. I can't control the future. I know that we've been talking openly about the sale when it could happen. There's no update on that, but I think with us was to be that transparent and honest with Mike that this is happening. It's nothing new to him. He knows the day to day on it, but yeah, there's things I can't control. There's things Mike can't control, but what we can control is putting together this team, connecting this team, looking forward to winning another championship, and then moving forward, hopefully leading, so that there aren't too many changes once ownership comes in.
All right, we'll go to Meg Linehan next.
Hi, this one is for both of you. I mean, we saw today major free agency news in the NWSL with Dabinia heading to Kansas City, which feels honestly like a direct response to that championship game, to loading up their midfield. Obviously, it's a good position to be winners of the championship and the team that everybody is chasing after. But Karina, maybe we could start with you. Like, are you happy with where the team is at ahead of the 2023 season as of this moment?
Absolutely. I think one of the things, and I learned this from being a player, is that connection piece is massive. And for us to be able to keep most of our group together was huge. Obviously, I'm happy Dabinia staying in the league. I think every team tried to go after her. So it's an asset for our league to have a player of that caliber in there. But we're trying to build on that in the draft, and we'll continue to build on that this season. But it's a plus for the league for her to stay in, but I'm confident in our roster. And Mike and I have had many conversations about this of depth, like what movements would we want? But I think that connection of the team, and when these players have been in and they know what it's like to win a championship, they know the ups and downs and how to get through that. That's an asset that we want to keep tightened together. So I'm confident. Mike, I'll let you answer the question.
Yeah, I would just reiterate that. I think, Meg, there's also the element of just constantly being aware and on the lookout to how and where can we add to the roster. It would be naive to think that we shouldn't be looking in that direction. So yeah, if we can add to the roster, great. But I think we are in a position where we're not necessarily being hurried into anything. based on the quality that we have.
All right, we're gonna go to Brenna Green next.
This question's for Mike. Obviously last year, you know, in an up and down situation for the club, you guys win a championship, but there was a lot of, you know, off-field stuff. Just what did you learn about leadership last year, and how do you want to implement that as the head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year, I'm still learning that part. I think there's some things that we're experiencing which nobody's been through. I think what I've learned through the year is how strong the group is. And I think how they go towards conversations, honest conversations, how they like to acknowledge and address issues and things that pop up. So that's something that which I'll look to continue and learn from and move forward with, is just continue to have those conversations and not an acknowledgement. And I think on the other side, there's an element of the huge positives with last year being my first year at the club. My first game I'll still recall was against Rain at home. Just the atmosphere there, just incredible. My family, when I think they got their first game, San Diego during the Challenge Cup. So for me, 2 young daughters to experience that and be able to share those moments, those are some of the other pieces in terms of the leadership, I think, which I learned from, and we'll look to continue to share those and try and remember, just as a staff, myself and the players, of the other moments that we have had. And I mean, Stand Together was another one, like, just incredible. So I think there's lessons to be learned across the board, not just from some of the, let's call it the negative stuff that's happened, but also the positives. But yeah.
All right, we're gonna go to Sam next.
Thanks for the time. Question for Mike. Mike, Karina's talked a lot about continuity and kind of, you know, the tactics you're bringing. I'd love to hear from you, kind of how would you describe your coaching philosophy, and how are you hoping to see this Thorns team play this season?
Yeah, coaching philosophy. I'll repeat myself. I'm really passionate about tactics and strategy, and I think the collective, how you get 12 players on the field working together. That's a big piece, breaking it down, then looking at the individual skill sets to bring that stuff alive is part of what I believe is my philosophy. And then how I bring that to life, which as a club and a fan base, we enjoy and expect attacking football. I am a goalkeeper by trade, so defense is always at the core of everything, I think, in terms of how you attack. But I think you can expect a similar approach in terms of what we expect as a fan base and a club moving forward. But yeah, hopefully exciting football, which is a good experience for the fans.
All right, we'll go to Jackie from Women Kick Balls next.
Thank you, Katie. Hey, Mike and Karina, I have a question for each of you. But Mike, wanted to start with you in terms of, you know, talking about the tactics and the strategy of the game. Just what has it been like adjusting to this role during, you know, the draft week, and trying to put those pieces into play as you just make decisions ahead of this week and during the draft? And then for Karina, for you, just how confident do you feel in having this coaching piece down and now being able to focus on the player aspect as well? Thank you.
So I think to the question, that I think the tactics and strategies, it's put at the side for the moment a little bit. Obviously, draft is where the focus is at the moment. We'll get more into the tactics once the group comes together at the end of the month for pre-season. But I mean, it's just been draft prep, roster planning. That's where the work's been at. I mean, I've been doing the draft prep pretty much since not long after the championship win. Obviously, capacity in that role's changed slightly in terms of the process, but yeah, I'll be looking forward to getting onto the tactical side of stuff, and once we get through the draft. Kick, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I'm hearing Mike talk, like he loves being on the field, right? He like the other day we were talking about because he got on the field and you just see his face lights up. What's exciting for me is to have that person in place, have that person who's going to lead, have that vision clarity, especially with our staff, with our players. I think the players wanted to know that too. So how excited am I? I'm through the roof excited. I think it's just one of those things is when you start to plan out the season, when you don't have a head coach, that's a huge gap in filling in the other roles. So for us, that was a really important thing to try to get squared away pretty quickly. And I think this is why, I mean, you guys are just finding out about this, but we're really excited to get this going. Some of the players are in, they're buzzing, you know, they're in a good mood. We're in a good spirit here. And I think that's what's important for us moving into 2023. Happy New Year, by the way, everybody. Woo!
All right, we'll go to Margaret Seiler next.
Hey, going into the draft, I'm just wondering if there are sort of lessons learned from last year, or if you've added any additional layers to your draft prep based on what or how things went last year. And then, Mike, I'm curious, besides food and besides soccer, what is at the top of your Portland to-do list?
Okay, I'll answer that. It's pretty, I shouldn't say easy. I really enjoy cycling. I'm a pretty keen road cyclist. So it's been a great way for me to explore Portland and just detach as well from the work life and get a bit of balance. But yeah, it's there's some cool rides here. I've got to say I'm keen to do more. I think on my list is through the gorge there. But yeah, that's me go-to just to explore on my bike.
Should we have a special vest for you, Mike, that says "Do not hit head coach of the Thorns" while you're cycling? Because that's important to us.
That's okay.
But learnings from last year, obviously, we have a lot of learnings, and I think that's why we've been thorough. We didn't just start the process at the end of the season. We've been looking throughout. Social media checks and all those things are important parts of making sure we don't repeat our mistakes. But I think we're excited about the upcoming draft. It's a great draft. There's some phenomenal players in there, and we're doing a due diligence and making sure we're across it.
All right, we've got a handful more questions, so we'll go through those. We'll go to Neil Davidson, Canadian Press, next.
Thank you. Congratulations on your appointment, Mike. Canada has obviously played a big part in your coaching career with the Whitecaps, UBC, and Canada Soccer. I wonder what brought you over to Canada originally, and when was that?
What brought us to Canada? I took a year out to travel, which I landed in Vancouver, Canada. I was meant to travel across the country and depart from the East Coast back to England, and that was in the late part of 2005, and I never made it past Vancouver. So yeah, it was a bit of it wasn't part of the plan in terms of I never left England not thinking I was not going to live there like as my full-time home. Just it was part of the trip. It just evolved, and then I did meet me wife, well, my now wife, in Vancouver. So obviously that is a major part of the story. But yeah, that's how I ended up there in late 2005, and I've lived there full time pretty much from 2006.
All right, we'll go back to Ryan Clark.
Hi guys, thanks again for your time. Obviously, last season was unique in how it ended, in that the team won the championship, but its first year head coach Rian Wilkinson departed the club. Just wondering if maybe Karina, starting with you, if you can talk about the conversations with players in terms of regaining trust in the club and its management, and really the coaching staff, just given what has transpired, and given that there has been obviously a letter written by some of the players on the team outlining their concerns about how management handled Rian Wilkinson's departure. Karina maybe can start on that subject, and Mike, if you're able to maybe talk about the conversations that you've had with players, just in terms of building trust and maintaining a positive culture.
Yeah. Obviously last year was difficult for multiple reasons. For me, first time going through this. We had an open conversation with the players, and the process was, I think, within minutes of me hearing, I reported it. We all reported it. We went through that process. The players came out and said they wanted a bit more, which we had the conversation with Rian. She put together her letter of resignation. I think the biggest thing is we've learned from it and we're moving forward. As to our plans with the players, I think this is one of the conversations Mike and I have probably over talked to make sure we're being sensitive to every person's feelings and thoughts of what's happened so that we don't make it seem like it didn't happen, and find that balance of how to move forward. So I don't think I'll go into details, but I'll tell you there is an intentional plan in that. But Ryan, to your point, like I think you know me enough, you know Mike, that like we want to make sure that the players are seen in this, that they feel the difficulties of last year. I think it's been felt by all, and we're not going into this pretending we're professionals, but we are trying to deal with the situation as best as possible to allow Mike to be successful, you know. And I know Mike's coming into this knowing the past, and I think that's one of the advantages here. But we're not saying that we'll be perfect in it, but we're being very intentional in making sure that the players feel seen and heard, they feel safe, and this is a club that they're proud to play for.
Yeah, I think, Ryan, just to follow up, once we got through the process, I did reach out to the players in the off season just to open communication lines up to see if people wanted to talk. Some did, some didn't. And I think that was just key to get a little bit of feeling where players were at and if they needed anything from me. And then, I did end the communication lines then with the players that I did speak with, just respecting their off season, because a lot had happened quickly after the end of the season. So it was just a matter of letting them know I was here if they needed anything. Otherwise, I'd be respecting that time in the off season, and we'd be really looking at as how we could reconnect as a group in January here in the pre-season as we look to move forward. Obviously, acknowledging what has happened, because we have to. It's impacted a lot of people, so it's key that we acknowledge that as a group. And then just with a vision of moving forward, and that being paramount in terms of the discussions that we will have collectively. And some of the discussions might just be me listening, just because it'll be the first time we'll be back together as a group since a lot of this has happened.
All right, we've got time for 3 more questions, so we'll go to Fook Win.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Karina and Mike. Karina, you acquired allocation money from the recent Yasmin Ryan trade. Without giving up too much, do you have plans to use that to sign or trade for a player? And then Mike, do you foresee a bigger role for Janine Becky this year?
So you want me to tell you all my secrets? Obviously, yes, I think allocation money in this league is very important because we have a salary cap. So we've looked at different ways of how we're going to use that money for now and for the future. I think one of the things is we have to think ahead. There's an expansion draft coming next year. There's a lot of changes, so it's not just immediate, but we definitely have talked through multiple ways of using that money. We appreciate everything Yasmin did for this club. She's a phenomenal human being, and we will miss her. I think that's the biggest thing is you get to the business part of it, but the human aspect of it, she was a phenomenal player. She is, and we are sure she will go on to do great things, but I can't let you know all my secrets. But yes, we intend to use that money wisely.
Yeah, so just on the Janine question, I think, and this is a bit of my personality and make it, like, what is a bigger role for Janine? I don't think we're going to undervalue the role that she played last year. Obviously, she's wanting more she did last year, but I don't think we should sniff at the role that she did play last year, because it was a big role amongst the other players as well. And I think looking ahead to the season in terms of roles, I think I'm excited to get all the players back together in pre-season. I think the players are hungry and excited for that. And then it's with the talent that we have, it's how people come in. Hopefully they're light and bright, and how we look forward to the 2023 season and having another successful season.
All right, we'll take 2 more questions. We'll go to Paul Danzer, and then our last one will be Joe Becker. So we'll start with Paul.
Hey, Mike, I'm just curious if you can talk a bit about why you got into coaching and how you got into coaching in terms of your background and why coaching was your chosen profession?
Yeah, so I think my very first exposure to coaching, I didn't enjoy. I was too young. It wasn't the right time, and it kind of put us off it for a little bit, to be honest. And then when I revisited it, it was a whole different experience. And I think that the thing that really grabs me with coaching is it's just the constant interaction and challenge to push people and push yourself. That's really what, yeah, just gets the fire in me going. And like that went back to 24 years old when I revisited, and that's when I think I was mature enough to feel that sort of enjoyment and drive from it. And that's just grown ever since. And I think with the different environments that I've worked in, it's the same objective, but the players are just different, more experienced, different experiences. And so that challenge it's the same, but it just becomes a different challenge based on the personalities that you're trying to get that message across to.
All right, we'll take one final question from Joe Becker.
Yeah, Mike, I did want to congratulate you on getting the job, but you guys were talking about the roster, and I was wondering how important it is that Christine Sinclair said she's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, Sink's a huge part of this club. I don't think it's just what she brings in terms of on the field. I think just how she carries herself daily, her approach to training. Yeah, I think somebody of Sinky's quality and experience is a huge asset to this roster and this club, especially moving forward.
All right, well, I think we will wrap it on that. We appreciate everyone's questions and everyone taking the time, and good luck to everyone this week traveling to Philadelphia in the draft. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.